1 second while we wait for our ASL interpreter for access. And we're back. See how quick it was? Okay, hello. Welcome. My name is Elise. I am the founder and executive and artistic director of Abilities Dance. And tonight is the second and last night of the Banned Ballet. Yay! This has been a wonderful... I love your enthusiasm, my dear. Keep on being enthused. This show is being live streamed as well as live from Boston to provide access, and we are so glad whether you are tuning in virtually or with us in the audience. We love having you. This has been a journey of so many different artistic disciplines. There's a video with animation by Willow Machado. There is a literal book that has been made, written by myself and illustrated by 2 disabled teen illustrators with the help of Andrew Cho. In addition to Andrew Cho's live music score throughout the entire show, this is a multidisciplinary work. And of course the dance that is been choreographed by myself, but in collaboration with the dancers so that it is in tune with themselves and their identities and the themes of this show. Between Andrew and myself, and honestly a lot of the cast, this show is queer and trans and disabled, created and led. It is important that the voices that we are advocating for be represented in this work, as well as leading this work. So, you're in for a ride. So, if you're looking for the program to know more of who are these wonderful humans on stage and what is this about, you can look at that program online on our website at abilitiesdanceboston.org/events/bandballet. We also have merch, including the book that we created that I just discussed, that was printed by a queer and trans press, Bench Press, for pre-sale, in addition to some dope shirts. And if you're joining online, you can email us at abilitiesdanceboston@gmail.com, or if you're in person, just head on to the lobby in Intermission and feel free to peruse. And in addition to all of that, this show is, while we're thinking of merch and selling things, let's sell ourselves for a second. This is important because we try to pay everyone here on stage as equitably as possible, but we rely on funds and donors from folks like you. So if you are able to give, you can go to abilitiesdanceboston.org/donate. If not, feel free to just share the word and enjoy the show. Part of this work is that we wanted to make sure that we are partnering with an org that is actively doing this work. And so we are proud to be a community partner with Unite Against Book Bans, a national advocacy campaign to highlight and mobilize widespread public opposition to removal of reading materials from libraries and schools. This research-informed, nonpartisan campaign will provide information, resources, and actionable measures to strengthen a national grassroots network and empower individuals and groups to take action in their communities and in their states. So thank you to them. Feel free to check out their work and feel free to look into more initiatives that might be happening locally or nationally in the fight against book bans. So if you're new to our work, let's talk about the access work that's at play, or the access art, rather. We have ASL that is done by our lovely team over here. We are doing this experimental team for us where we are looking into training the next generation of BIPOC interpreters. So along with Chris, we have Yuritsa and Jasenia to supplement the ASL that you will see today. And a note from Chris about why this is important. There is a national shortage of qualified ASL English interpreters, and this is exponentially true in the BIPOC, deaf, and disabled space. This is also true in the case of audio describers and open captioning service providers. The pandemics, plural, magnified the issues in this area that we have always known. Representation and authentic lived experience in the ASL interpreting community, which includes deaf interpreters as well, needs to be addressed and cultivated with the same enthusiastic activism that we were emboldened with 3 years ago. We are still here. So, this is the first of, I'm sure, many shows where we will be training up the next generation, not just for our shows, but for the field as a whole, so that we can have more representation reflected back in our art and in our spaces overall. And, as I know, for my personal mission, art for art's sake is completely valid, but not what drives me. Art to drive mindsets and legislation and culture overall is what drives me and what I try to inspire in this company. Representative Vitolo, a self-proclaimed ADB groupie, came on stage yesterday and told us about a hearing coming up for H1601, that disabled parents should not be denied the right to parent based on assumptions and not evidence. If you attended our intersection show last year, you might know that we did pieces highlighting the need for just rights and custody hearings, and I'm so glad that the bill is being heard. I encourage you to look into Disability Policy Consortium for more information about when that hearing will be sometime in November and how to get involved, especially by reaching out to your local legislators if you're Massachusetts-based. Similarly, you can go on our YouTube page and check out that Intersections V2 show and see more of the work at play where we talk about that bill and bring it to life with music and movement and all of the things that make us great. And in the line of legislation, similarly, I just found out today, and it isn't public, but I got special permission from my bestie to share, that the State House just heard H4005, an act ensuring freedom to read in the Commonwealth. This would ensure our library systems remain protected against attempts to ban or restrict access to books or other materials. Even though the hearing has passed, this show is being shared among the chairs on the Joint Committee on Arts, Tourism, and Cultural Development. That means by us bringing this show to life and you here to witness it, we are collectively shifting our statewide legislature. Yay! And while that hearing has passed, it still needs co-sponsors on the bills, which means for my Massachusetts-based friends, reach out to your senators and representatives to ensure that we can keep our libraries free and our stories safe. With that said, the show. It's about 2 hours long, the 15-minute intermission in between, and let the show move you in whatever ways it moves you. Feel free to reach out in the comments if you're online or over email, as well as touching base with any of us if you're in person after the show, because we would love to hear your thoughts. And definitely keep sharing the work. May you be inspired to write your own story. And part of my story is I'm actually going on leave. And next at midnight, Andrew Cho, who is the director of music and conductor for tonight, will be interim executive director. And so we look forward to this new phase of the organization as we continue to think of the leadership models that help move us and continue for all of us, including myself, to take rest when needed. And I will see you in the new year. Cool? Great. You have me until midnight. Instead, have a lovely show. Librarian Leslie is reaching towards something more than her current reality. She turns to face left as if holding a diverse book that has vanished due to these sweeping book bans that have hit her community. Facing front, she lowers her torso as she offers up this wish to the sky and releases. She rises with arms curved up, spinning slowly as they lower. As she arabesques, she wonders why so many are hesitant to let all, but especially youth, learn about themselves and the people around them, past and present. She daintily weaves through all the school committees, library boards, and other spaces that have made these regulations possible, until she notices sparks coming out of a book. She reaches towards it, and swirls leap off the pages. She's dazzled by the fabulousness and hops in excitement. She stretches into a lunge on the floor and lowers the book as its magic fills the air. Seated facing front, arms rush through the air to make a circle as she's taking in this energy. Her arm brushes her face as she leans on one knee and kicks into a lunge. Arms opening up like the ballerina she is as she's dancing in this adventurous energy around her. She stands as her left leg brushes up and behind. She is choosing to embrace this beautifully queer energy and not suppress it. As she skips side to side, she is reminded that our community is not just hardship, but filled with joy. She revels in a spin. Her library has enacted a series of book bans that deny so many diverse representations of others for whom you can be. Her hand brushes her face to self-soothe. Her arms flutter like butterflies as she steps across the stage on her toes, wishing an imaginary fairy book mother could fix this. She moves her hand as she writes her own story in the air that will allow her queer and trans community to thrive on the page and in real life. As she rises, she realizes jumping into this book might be the key. The swirls from the book flow with her arms as they swing back and forth like a pendulum and the time running out to take a stand. She decides to embody this energy as it enters her. She pushes off oppressive energy as stars shoot from her hands, flicking back. She elongates into a T as bolts of lighting shoot from her arms and legs. She spins, embracing the whirlwind of this new world, and dives into the book. Leslie enters this magical world with large books open at an angle, with one large book with open pages waiting for a story to fill it. She sees a group of fabulous folks kikiing, if you will, having a good time, with Lauren in a rainbow ombre dress, Jamie in a two-piece purple sparkling fit with a sheer draping tail, Kylie in a sheer blue dress with sparkling undertones, Kate in a multicolored paisley blazer, and Cassandra in a black-white pinstripe blazer with sharp cut and open drape, and to the drums. They proudly raise right arm curved up and left arm curved in. Leslie is taken aback by their fabulousness and their strength. She takes a seat on a giant stack of books. The fab books walk towards us, opening up their arms to show their might, and circling with their arms to reveal an openness of themselves to us. To the strings, they walk confidently around the stage. Right leg points as their hand slides down, and both arm and leg kick into a lunge. Arms wave like the fluidity and identities we experience. Leg flicks forward with proper wrist flicks to the right and to front. Extra sprinkle flicks in case you didn't catch that. With wrists crossing to lead them into a turn with arms at their side as they bow. They sway side to side with arms curving in and out as they do. Feet switch, tapping opposite knee, and arms open us into the space as they spin and shimmy and spin and shimmy. They bend as hands tap side to side. And legs slide in as hands rise up. One arm remains bent up as they each find a partner except Jamie. As they start their partnering waltz moment, Jamie goes towards Leslie to bring her into the fun. Leslie, unprepared, joins as they all lean back. Their legs swish to the violin as they lunge across from each other and with one arm wrapped around each other's waist. They spin out as Leslie decides to sit and watch, and Jamie continues to jam on her own. Jamie, Cassandra, Kate, Lauren, and Kylie leap or spin around in glee at this moment of connection with each other. They spin to the drum and kick leg out with arms at a diagonal. Hands push down legs, then arms rise up, embracing the warmth of this safe space. They rise into an arabesque. Leg swings back and forth. They spin to rise on toes facing left, then right with arms on a diagonal and hands flicking. They form a line with hands wrapped at each other's waist and the ending pokes outer arms out in very jazzy orientation. They step in formation towards us, sliding one leg back and forth. They flick the leg forward with hands released to hold palms up, eager to read the juicy stories of all in attendance. Feet switch tap opposite knee as arms continue opening up. A leg flicks back while wrist flicks side to side. Arms rise until backs of hands touch. Arms rise as they open out into a lunge. They turn, left foot rising to lunge right as they pirouette. Bent left leg swings forward and back as torso tilts forward and back. They write their stories of their lives and dreams for others to acknowledge and learn from in this space. Left foot taps back of leg as they bend with arms bending close to face to front, left, back, then right side. Left leg kicks to pivot them facing right and left arm extended. Left hand flourishes as left arm kicks behind to a lunge. Hand continues to write their multi-layered histories of their various identities. Right arm pushes out across the body and up, pushing back against any negativity from other spaces. As the springs pluck, they walk around the space, prancing. Small kicks from the knee down, hips and wrists daintily flourish side to side as they spin in to face in a circle. Kate and Cassandra grab hands across from each other and deeply lunge, facing up. Lauren and Kylie repeat. Jamie joins in with an arabesque on top of the shared circle. They harness their communal energy, bringing hands in and then exploding out to face outside. Right elbow rises to lead them into a spin as they face front. Right arm steps across as they rotate to face left corner with left leg pointed forward and arms on a diagonal. They arabesque twice and pirouette to face right. Right arm slides in and out like sliding in and out of various spectrums of identities. They step on facing right with hand facing forward. Wrist flick. They strut in each direction. Dainty femme and strong mask and everything in between. They stop in front as their right arm arcs up and right foot points behind them. They sway side to side, sweeping arms right and left to the notes. Arms rise as wrist flick right and left to the notes. They continue to step backwards while foot taps alternate knees, and they continue cultivating the space of fellowship. Right leg swings behind, then swishes forward to stand on heel and jut forward to the drums. Torso lowers as arms explore what it means to hold so much for self and community. Torso rises. They spin along with the piano notes in various directions, using this as an opportunity to take up space in the best way. Bent arms at side with fingers alive like the piano keys, they step back and forth and all around, welcoming librarian Leslie and all of us into this vibrancy. More hip and arm circles, loosening up societal tensions, leg and wrist flicked forward as they hold up their beloved stories to share and cherish. Hands press against the head as the knowledge flows through their bodies. They continue to step backward as foot taps alternate leg and arms continue to whirl in the enchantment around them. With the music highs and lows, they write their concerns that others might note at their differences, but overall knowing their worth and place in society. Left arm circles as right arm and left leg extends left. Arms open. Up to a pointed V shape as torso lowers with a step forward and arms pressing against the gravity of what it means to be fully out and fabulous. Right leg kicks against that, to be fabulous no matter what. Joy shines through their dancing. They spin and step on their toes side to side with one arm up and one arm arced in, repeating their waltz across the stage as they remind us of how meditative it is, having a space that is for you and your people to consistently show up in. On the ending note, they pause dramatically. We expect nothing less. Meet the inciters. INCITERS works in the book, not necessarily verbally, but you get the idea. They are here to truly rain on a parade. They are feeling where things are fabulous and here to press their own agenda. Audience note, I mean the characters and not the actual dancers. And hence, we are all anti-book bans in this company. Back to show. They jump into a deep bend, hands pressed on legs as shoulders shrug. Right bent leg rises and straightens as torso leans back, leg lowers. They hop with arms pressed at sides. They rotate with raised hands clasped. They release as they arc down at their sides, chest fallen. To the creepy notes. They inch forward on their tippy toes like spiders waiting to pounce their next target. Chest rises as hand pressed against their sides. Bent arm rises as they walk in a circle alone in unison, but not necessarily in communion with one another. Right arm reaches forward as chest drops and arms sling back. They rise with resolve in their mission. They walk on their toes, left to right, while pulling pages away from stories of diverse histories and radical dreams. They are here for uniformity. You can tell with their basic polos and khakis, the real villain of this show. Feet slide across the floor into a lunge facing left corner as arms rise. Hands trickle down as if rain washing ink from a page. Left leg slides in to tap up right leg while right hand slithers up into spaces they shouldn't try to take over but do. Arm straightens up as they release to step forward and arm slices through the tense air. They lean into a side lunge with arms diagonal right into an arabesque. They release to spin. They formed a spinning cauldron, brewing ideas of ways to make the fab folks shine dimmer. Claire and Shy spin repeatedly across from each other while Dara and Andrea spin into these large leaps, and then with one bent leg behind, spinning repeatedly across each other to form this large circle. They pause to all face front, drop to one knee, and kick left leg to side as left arm extends to side and back to sit on knees. Hands rise and pull their sticky-like energy like gum on a shoe, nuisance to a lovely day. Bent arms and palms up in a questioning stance, but questions aren't allowed here. There's too much room for independent thought and growth. As they rotate on knees to face right and arms release behind them with head touching the floor, one hand crawls up the floor as they stretch out to lay on their sides as they rise up. Leg swings around as they rise to stand on their knees. They begin their space of how they can explore, how they can expand their dastardly deeds. Limbs are exploring the space at different heights, and they explore the various reasons that compel them to place their drive to uniformity and why they are so offended by anything less. Some believe this drive comes from a higher source. Others believe they think it's for the well-being of the children. Either way, big yikes. As the piano strikes, they fall into a deep bend with arms arched down at their sides, reaching right and spinning through their own nonsense of what it means to take a spectrum of lived experiences and make only one narrow perspective valid. Right leg kicks right with a flexed foot to land on heel. Hands push against stories of mental and social-emotional well-being for the children. They face back with arms bent behind head and back as they clench fists and open arms to side. Right arm curves around, they spin to face front. They skip and jump with one leg bent behind and one leg straight in front to the left corner. They skip across across stage with legs bent into the right. They spin midair towards back left corner, ramping up the energy to overtake Fab Folks because it's the right thing to do. Wink, wink. They stand on their knees with one arm curved up and one arm curved in. Torso and arms circle deeply around. They slide forward on their hands and knees. They roll back with legs slicing through the air to then stand on one knee with one leg extended and wrist crossed. Arms open as leg slides around the floor. They fall to lay on one knee and rise torso as they sit with elbow resting on one knee and fingers slithering in air, a sinister gesture. They release to stand. With the woodwinds, left elbow hits right knee as it rises and slings around. They repeat on opposite sides, moving towards us while we sit further back in our seats. They hop into a deep bend with arms at side, palms up. Hands come together as they rotate around and kick into an arabesque. They release as they stand on their toes with one arm slightly curved up and the other arced in left to right. Right and left foot tap alternate knee until right leg extends out and swipes across the air to face left corner. Hands rise as they continue washing away diverse representations that aren't uniform to them from pages. Drawing attention to Fab Folks is one group that has to fit their norms. They spin and skip to the left, hopping in place as feet switch, eyes locked on their target from afar. They get bolder as they continue hopping and jumping with legs bent in. Backs of hand connect as arms and torso circle around. Hands release as fingers creepily crawl down. Slide to the left as shoulders rotate, posturing their plan. They want to erase the Fab Folks from existence and bring them into their khaki-colored plans. Right leg slides into a deep bend as foot pops and hands at their side to ward off their welcoming energy. They realize the stories are the source of their strength. Hand pointing front, they gallop towards that source. Erase the story, erase their essence. They spin with arms bent on top of one another. Right arm and left leg fling to the side. They thwart the Fab Folks' goal of having a space for all to now a space for few. Hand resting on their chin as it inches forward. Leg swings around to face front. Note to audience, in real life, these dancers are all gay. Jazz hands. I personally find that hilarious. Back to the storyline. Facing right as their bodies make a C shape with arms curved overhead. Slide as they lean to the front with left legs extended to side and release facing front. Dara and Claire deeply bend to the ground with hands on the ground. Right leg circles up and over to extend on ground. Dara slides back to Shy quickly. Claire slightly questions her place in this destructive force. She slowly slides leg back, looking at Andrea before joining her side. Both Claire and Dara have arms bent up. Andrea and Shy wrap one arm around their partners in arabesque. They step back as Claire and Dara handstand with legs scissoring to stand. Shy and Dara spin their dark energy around one another. Dara balancing on one hand in a deep lunge as Shy leans on them in an arabesque. Spin to both stand face back. Arms make an X overhead. Releases to pivot front. They gallop left with one bent arm and the other extended behind. They rotate mid-air with one leg behind as they land in a lunge. Shy stands next to Dara's arms circle with hands facing out. As the piano notes hit like a clock, striking them into action, Andrea and Claire's heads wriggle. Claire slowly turns with right bent leg behind like a dancer in a jewelry box as Andrea slides underneath and stands. Both in a lunge sprinkle their not fab fingers across the space, leaning back with one bent arm and up to scoop arms as they spin, one bent arm and one arm outstretched, refining their scope of starting with book bands as it grows into monotony across the land and culture. They hop to face each other with low arms as they rise. While Claire is still hesitant, stepping backward, Andrea reassures her stepping forward. They're doing the right thing for the children, after all. On the harsh piano notes, they all face forward with arms extending at their side, showing us their plan, demanding us to get on board. Hands on their waist, they step forward and back. Not in a waltz, but in a dance against their opponents, the Fab Folks. As they bow, showing their strength, they're eager to bend the Fab Folks into their will. Arms and chest rise, hands extend across the space and in as their plan unleashes. They spin as chest falls with arms arched at their side, and they inch forward on their toes towards us like spiders, venomous creatures on the attack. Taking a book, they wipe not just the words but the meanings clean away, breaking it against their leg as it rises and falls into a deep bend as they sit on one knee, head lowered, duty done.
At this time, there will be a short 15 intermission. Once again, there will be a short 15 intermission.
The insiders have unleashed their turmoil. Fab folks and insiders are spread in a U shape across the stage in various sitting and standing positions. They are contemplating how these book bans, which quickly became even more restrictions on diverse representation, erased from public buildings, street names, and more, have affected their lives. They are all secretly and overtly in turmoil as they share their inner monologues with us. For Andrea and the rest, book bans were merely a way into draining the fab folks of what makes them so fabulous and seeking to conform to their version of acceptable. Big yikes. As Andrea opens up arms into an arabesque, they hop with arms crossed at the chest, leaping in excitement that they believe they're doing the good work. Slowly balancing with one bent leg raised and arms extended on a diagonal, they spin across the stage, truly believing they are doing the good work. I mean, it has to be the good work, right? They reach left to right, spreading the good work and feeling good, doing it while hands cup the face and they scooch further in their truth. Balance and spin on one knee as one leg slides across the floor and rises to stand. They continue on their tippy toes, tearing pages as the strings pluck and sashay away. Shy enters cautiously, assessing the damage they've been part of, intrigued in this moment that they've never been asked what they personally feel about all of this. Slowly rolling on the ground and up to stand with one leg rising, they push away feelings of wanting to be themselves. It's not safe in this new world. Looking at the group, knowing they are so preoccupied with not wanting a kid to feel what they are feeling, that the fab folks are promoting a way of life they are desperately trying to not be a part of. Spinning with a bent leg and swirling more into the notion of being perfect and not like these fab folks. Kids can't have access to books that will plague their mind like Shy's. Arm and spirit weaving between these worlds like a thread trying to pull it together. Torso drops as they hop side to side, knowing it's just not safe to feel as they run away. How has this new world affected the fab folks? Let's start with Cassandra. As she heavily steps towards us, arms reaching up, then holding the ghost of books reflecting her heritage in her hands, skipping right then left as those pages disappear into the air. She gently holds the memories of libraries and the importance of representation as she strolls across on her toes, reaching towards the future of young black girls, young queer black girls losing their history and future in these book bans. Cassandra takes that energy inwards to fight for those who can't as her hand brushes her face in the tears shed for young black girls and young queer people everywhere. She exits as Jamie enters, knees sliding against the ground, torso heaving up and down, wondering why book bans are affecting her so much since reading has always been a challenge due to ADHD or dyslexia. It took book bans to realize it's not just banning books, but banning stories which can be universally accessible in some fashion. Sitting, holding an imaginary book as she lays on her side as the stories vanish as she rolls over to contract in and sit facing front, hands on the ground as one leg extends straight up and contracts in as she rolls up to stand then falls back down like the rolling waves of book bans that morph into more banning of who you can be, hitting harder and harder than the last. Pedaling in place until she can write her own story, Jamie runs and leaps off as Dara enters. Dara enters with alternate arms and legs cutting through the air, surveying the reveling in the wreckage. She spins with arms up as they lower arc down at her side. She crumbles to the floor, turning herself into knots, justifying her actions. Reaches up with one hand behind and one reaching up for further spiritual guidance to continue these actions for the children. Understanding the power of books over us and our culture, I guess she received that guidance because she untangled herself to stand proudly. She hops into an arabesque but slumps torso over, exhausted with the mental and physical gymnastics of it all, to rotate torso up into a kick. She repeatedly spins, kicking away the naysayers and the impacts of her harm to do the good work. She stretches into a deep lunge on the floor and slides away. Kylie enters from a slumber, running frantically since it wasn't just a nightmare but her reality. She pauses, faces back with arms up as she tries to write about the connections she's made with others over books. Arms extend on a diagonal as she rises on her toes to spin. Facing left, arms and legs sweep behind her. She rises to look up, reminiscing about when finding someone who shares your favorite book was like a book recommending a person, and how that can build into a deeper connection, a partnership, friendship, or just shared values and community, now marked out. She arabesques and slowly rotates like a dancer in a jewelry box. You can't really ban the idea of books because the stories are held within the people. She returns to rest for the fight ahead. Katie enters, leaping with bent legs to land kneeling, hand trying to remain grounded. Head rises up and back as she slowly stands, hands typing an underground manifesto with the drums. She bottles this energy and transforms it into change. Left elbow pushes out while right leg kicks like a typewriter about to go off. Before moving too quickly, she faces back and kicks out while kneeling to the floor. She wonders how much space she should take up in this movement as a white queer as front and black leg licks to the drum and slowly rises. She wants to use her white guilt as fuel before it transforms into white saviorism for queer sibs of color. She runs to each corner and scissors her legs with arms shooting out, ready to move. She leaps with bent legs to return, remembering to include the intersectionality in her underground manifesto for real liberation. Lauren enters, swaying arms, sweeping away the negative energy, pouring from her heart to her students as a school social worker, books that address identity and mental health. Left, then right leg slowly rises and kicks out with arms fanning out like the pages of a book that allow for self-exploration that promotes better mental health for the actual children. Holding hands up like a book, then down as front and back bent leg rise behind her, figuring out a way to get these books in the hands of students to comfort and overcome oppression. Left arm arced up and right arm arced in as Lauren spins twice. She pauses with arms extended at her sides, one hand on her hip as the other reaches out, pushing these stories out to each corner of her community. She takes a moment to comfort herself in the fight for us all before leaving. Claire enters, leaving and leaping with straight legs into an arabesque. Alternate leg swishes in front to kick to the left corner, hands holding a book up to the sky for guidance and out as she swings right leg behind her into a pirouette. Head is reeling as she's seriously questioning being a part of these inciting events. She skips side to side with bent elbows raised and relaxing with each land as torso falls. She picks up one of those underground manifestos Kate wrote and harnesses some of that energy as torso rises. It hits her head harder than a migraine in the best way. She becomes enraged at so thoughtlessly following ideals that harmed and didn't help, seeing her surroundings for the first time in a very dystopian light. Claire continues to read and listen to everyone's stories and learn as limbs explore space and spins across the stage as arms survey the wreckage around her. That realization that you are the bad guy must be really uncomfy. Can't relate. Limbs slide into a bend and stretch to stand facing right. She double turns with one leg bent behind her in a whirlwind. She continues to channel that energy into fighting for the good folks. Legs sweeping back as she lunges with bent arms raised and hands grasping up for more knowledge. While the journey will be long and much penance to pay to harm for the community, she knows there is a path towards change that ultimately liberates her too. Everyone notices Claire walking back to her place, forever changed in this energy rift, including librarian Leslie. Leslie enters, taking deep steps and looking underneath arms for a way to get the fat folks free from the insiders. Watching and seated on this large throne of books is Fairy Bookmother in a white leotard with gold sequins and trails of fabric at her side. Leslie notices and calls to her by flapping arms while moving forward on her toes. She hops side to side as arms cross and unfurl. Right hand reaches up to the sky as she's calling on her for support. She spins as bent arms open up to form a curve. Facing front, remembering the joy a first book gave her, whose excitement stayed with her throughout her career. She doesn't want the fat folks to miss on that joy. She kicks an arabesque with bent leg, slowly rotating to face Fairy Bookmother, and extends. Leslie turning away from Mother's gaze in a bend, Mother being short for Fairy Bookmother and not queer-coded at all. Leslie kicks and lunges in a bent arabesque while stepping back. Hands grasp both sides as she rotates torso, seeing how these book bands can evolve into even more and what this means for her community here and back home. She points right, then left foot to side, with arms at a diagonal. She faces back, one hand behind head and other at back, as they release to straightened arms on a diagonal. She skips side to side, rotates front. Hands reach out towards us to remind us of the joy stories give us and to not lose that joy. Feet tap the floor back and forth as she holds the memory and desire for herself and those around her. She jumps an arabesque twice towards Fairy Bookmother. She sways side to side as arms curve in and out. She spins as feet switch, tapping alternate knee, and one arm rises up with the other at her waist. starting to gear up to fight, but could really use some magical influences to level the field. She jumps in a bend, hands to head as it encircles the frustrations that the desires of the few have over the needs of the many, reaches out into an arabesque side to side. In a lunge, right then left hand circles as it slowly rises. She spins as crossed wrist furl and unfurl while making small steps on her toes left to right. Curved arms open up and searches across the land for a plan, hoping for some magic dust to sprinkle away the insiders and bring back the fab energy. Right foot points forward as right arm arcs up. She pirouettes and swings one bent leg forward and one behind while holding the stories of her brief but impactful time with the fab folks. Faces left with left foot pointed forward. Spins to face front with right arm curved up as both arms extend bent, then straightened. They form a circle as she skips side to side, one foot pointed behind the other and landing. She reaches out into a lunge, a final call for Fairy Book Mother. Mother rises with crutches. She walks towards Leslie with one leg bent behind, rotating as she moves closer. She comes to Leslie's side in a comforting embrace. Their outer arms make a large circle as they release to face each other. Left leg swivels to side lunge and back. Leslie inches closer while Mother taps further away on her crutches. Their inner arms overlap and hold each other's sides in a lunge. Leslie's hand sliding down Mother's hand until out of grasp. They hold up one hand representing the broken books left in Insider's wake and move towards us, finally getting the magical solution. Mother douses her with magical energy with a flick of a wrist all around her. Leslie majestically hops, hoping to jump in an arabesque and fly in and save the day with newfound powers, but that doesn't occur. We don't have animation dollars for that, darlings. Leslie's hands on Mother's shoulder as they both circle torsos and reel, wondering what the magic solution is. Arm circles in her frustration, hoping there would be something to defeat this insidious book ban / identity banning act in this land and elsewhere. Mother reminds her the magic is in her intellect, her bravery to step in a new world, her courage to fight for what's right. In real conflicts, it's not about a magical solution that can save the day, but what they represent in the people behind them, the actual characters and the people writing them. They skip side to side. Leslie gets it now. The power was within, all along. Cheesy, but needed. Arms interlock with Miss Fairy Book Mother once more, thanking her for this valid lesson and journey to get here. She spins off, readying her plan to lead the fab folks into battle, to bring the books back and what they need. Leaving Fairy Book Mother to sit on her throne and send her magic-sized encouragement for the fight ahead, in her world and ours, and to chat with us while she moves. Outer monologue to the audience. It's not as if I didn't see her, please. Who do you think brought her here to this magical land to go on a journey for us and for them? A Southern politician? Triple yikes. Hands brewing the mystical energy required to bring Leslie to this dimension. Pushing out into crutches to deeply lunge and lean side to side. I skip and see the journey Leslie has taken to get here. Seeing the fab folks that could just as easily be queer kids in librarian Leslie's library, seeking representation they might not find at home. Seeing the insiders. Well, the fashion could still be in librarian Leslie's world, but how far they've been willing to go? Maybe not so fictional as one might think. To the piano, I spin repeatedly around the stage. And then pirouette, to then pirouette, and remind you why I'm mother. I pause to kick out, right leg swishing side to side in a waltz on my own like fab folks. Left leg swishing side to side as I creepily tiptoe like the insiders. Authors in Leslie's world, fairy book mothers in ours. We create entire worlds for those to enjoy and learn from. I sit on my throne. I personally set the stage and let the characters choose their fate. Claire's switch up? Unexpected, even for me. Writing out the next part of the story, but leaving the sentence unfinished, as the arms elongate for blanks waiting to be filled. Leslie will feel a tug calling her back home when she's ready. What they all decide next is up to them. Leslie brought the fairy book mother energy to lead the fab folks in a fight, now with former insider Claire at their side. The insiders are not happy. They draw with one arm extended and the other bent in, shooting their insults and whatever else they can throw to stomp out this newfound resistance. Dare Andre and Shy continue flinging as chest falls and rises. They rip pages in front of them as they move right to left, hoping this will weaken. Fab folks stand firm in their strength. The trio's right foot rises its side, pointing and flexing, led straightens to cut through the air around and behind them. They continue hurling whatever they can think of and whatever they can find onto them. Librarian Leslie has shared the magic of courage with the fab folks to stand against them. They try to hurl things onto us for cheering for the fab folks like we're not just observers. Regardless, they continue stomping and having a hissy fit for not getting their way. Right arm rises to bend in your face, while walking in a circle trying to erase these diverse energies they did so well stomping out. They point right foot forward as arms rise, hoping to be justified by a higher source, misplaced direction if you asked me, but you didn't, and they find energy anyway. They skip in a non-fab way through the fab folks. Their intimidation tactics don't work and they retreat. They swipe the floor or spin in frustration, walking in place, exerting energy, but going nowhere. Right leg swings around to lean as arms circle and repeats. Hands at their side in a wide stance, they waddle towards them and back. Their attempts are laughable at this point. They know as they fall to their knees, kicking change so furiously. They continue ripping pages from their weakened states in a frenzy to keep up this mission, never pausing to question it. They roll as legs cut through the tension. Roll back to balance on hands as one leg extends. It bends over to sit. They balance on one hand, reaching up for more vision. They slowly sink back down. They slide on the floor with one leg extended. Sitting, elbow resting on knee as they continue plotting how they can stop this defiance. Leg kicks out as they stand on one knee with arms arched down at the side. Torso swinging back and forth, they rise with arms extending. Facing away with one hand behind head and the other at their side, arms unfurl as they balance on one leg. They rotate to face fab folks. They spin out and with the last try, hands at their side as they waddle and hop to and back from the fab folks, drawing one last angry word at the fab folks. As the pianists hastily run down the keys, the fab folks are equally hasty to fight for their rights. Not as aggressive as the insiders, but just as passionate. They lean forward as one hand slides down the other, both rise up, they spin to face opponents, they spin out to hold the manifesto Kate wrote, and continue to be inspired by those words that soothe in a tough time and give strength for conflicts such as this. Right hand pushes against negative portrayals of what their community is. They spin to have right arm curved up. They rotate out as left hand pushes out, as right foot takes a giant step towards change. They rotate to face back as arms rise and swing back behind them. They stretch into an arabesque. They repeat jumping and pushing hands forward and rotate to face front. Hands come to head to remind them of their truth of themselves and their safe spaces. Hands rise as right, then left hand fall to the side. They float on their toes as they make a large circle around the insiders with arms fluttering at their sides, not to trap them, but to show them who they really are, to show them who the kids of their community are, to show them who the insiders can be. They resume their place in front of them as insiders are baffled at this kindness. Bent arabesque facing back, then front as leg extends. They release as left foot points forward. They hop with right foot pointed at left leg, backwards and forwards, sharing themes of deep-seated joy in spite of all the hardships around us. They side lunge with arms on a diagonal. Right leg kicks out and front. They reveal stories to the insiders. They spin around the space as they share stories of their own lived experiences, histories of BIPOC and queer folks, and more that show not just the spectrum of queerness, but the spectrum of humanity. Fab folks form a circle with each other in arabesque as books that were previously banned resurfaced, and the excitement grows. They step out of the arabesque into a bigger circle. Librarian Leslie resumes her role by passing the first book to Cassandra. They continue passing these stories around, person to person, in this circle. They all feel the excitement of seeing their full selves in the pages and slowly reflected back in their society. With each book passed to each fab book, they see their people reflected back in their infrastructure and legislation. This stirring of solidarity is not only within the fab folks, as the insiders are watching their oppression crumble from the periphery. Not only are they watching, but listening. They see what led Claire to examine and then leave their group. The loud questions that some of the insiders had are growing louder and louder as books continue to be shared within the fab folks, but spill out as they more boldly live their truth and invite insiders to do the same as they share their books forward and into an arabesque. The insiders are humbled by their kindness and bow. They receive the stories the fab folks offer and really invite it in for the first time. They skip to different sides like a tumultuous sea, parting, offering a path to the other side. They all face front. They sway side to side as they begin this long journey of moving in unity. They spin and bow. They begin to grab pages from the air that were previously destroyed. A gift from Fairy Book Mother. You're welcome. They take big steps backwards, an arabesque with arms arched overhead. They begin to spin across the stage to form a large circle. They widen out the circle to include everyone. Librarian Leslie again shares Kate's manifesto as it passes along the circle, community member to community member, but now including the insiders. The insiders read the bad book, but it's not bad at all. It illuminates how their actions have affected others on a personal and societal level. They also find understanding with the bad folks and ponder, what if I am bad too? They take off their icky polos and find colorful tops underneath. They reach in the circle with their own copies as they arabesque. They release and offer these words and findings to us. Spinning and bowing in humility. They all begin the process of moving through difficult conversations as they integrate folks newer and older to the Fab Folk space. We aren't easily dismissing the harm that the insiders have done. Rather, we are making space for folks to learn, do better, and show up in joyful and difficult times. Insiders have a long journey ahead, but they have true community now, and better understanding of who they really are. Leslie spins through these different groups and sees the camaraderie growing. She steps forward, on her toes, while majestically undulating arm. She looks back at them to see their happy ending. Facing front, she feels a tug on her heartstrings that she cannot stay in this magical land. She must bring the magic back to her community. She must fight for the diverse voices in her library and beyond. Empowered, she repeatedly spins until she's off stage, ready to continue the fight. Fab Folks close the large book at the back of the stage. The end.